Everyone. Hi, and welcome to our Walla webinar series. Thank you so much for being on time here, prepared and early, some of you. We are going to get right into content because we have a lot to talk about today. But just quickly before we do, many of you might be new to this platform for webinars. So don't be alarmed if you don't see your face here. It's intentional, it's webinar style, a little bit different than Zoom, so you're not doing anything wrong. We do this so that the content that's being shared is front and center, and you're not under pressure to look beautiful while you're sitting watching. The other thing is that we'll be really interactive during this webinar today. So for those of you who have been to our Walla webinar series, you know that we always get lots of questions in the chat, and we really do try to get to all of them during the presentation. So I'll be monitoring that and kind of peppering in questions to Eric as he's going through the presentation today. And if you feel like there's something still lingering afterwards, please feel free to reach out to hello@hellowalla.com, and we'll be sure to either direct those questions to Eric if you need him. Eric will be sharing his information too.
Yes.
Or if you have a question specifically for Walla, then we can dive into it together. So I guess I didn't introduce myself. My name's Laura Mongolm, and I'm the founder and president here at Walla. Thank you for joining us, those of you who are not Walla clients. I actually saw we have quite a few of you here. This is really not going to be diving into Walla software in a lot of detail. It's much more about talking about how we can all get better as business owners in this industry. So don't worry, you're not out of place. But I am very excited to have Eric Tepper from Selling Wellness here with us today. When we discussed this topic, it really was along the lines of some of the new regulations that obviously we've been all talking about, and we had a webinar last week around click to cancel. And ultimately, a lot of the stress around that, I think, is avoidable. And Eric and I really kind of got nerdy and dove into some of the reasons behind why this industry has traditionally struggled with retention and what we can do about it now, especially in today's day and age of technology. So Eric, why you should listen to him. He is expert in all things boutique fitness. He's worked with some of the biggest brands in the world to, individual studios. And after working with, probably hundreds of individual locations, he has seen it all, from the very good to the very ugly, maybe. And fixed everything.
It's a good way to describe it, Laura, the very ugly.
Yeah, and Eric actually was instrumental for us in designing and kind of rolling out our lead tracker in Walla. So we really do try to lean on experts like Eric for real-time use cases and education on what you're all going through as business owners. So Eric, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you dive into the meat of the presentation today. And for those of you here, if you wouldn't mind, while he's getting started, just pop your name and your studio, where you're from, in the chat for us.
Great. And thank you so much for that introduction, Laura. I really appreciate it. You and Walla have been fantastic partners. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Give me 1 second to cue this up. Okay, and then we got this. Okay. So as Laura mentioned, my name is Eric Tepper. I'm going to give you like a 10-second snippet. My company is Selling Wellness. I launched that about 2.5 years ago. I've been in the fitness industry for close to 30 years now. And every time I say that, I look at my gray and my baldness and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I work now with, I think it's been close to 170 locations across the country, in London and in Australia. And what I focus on with clients is we build sales strategies and use sales coaching. So we focus a lot of our efforts on bringing in new members, right? How do we create an incredible journey where people start to lean towards, yes, I want to be a part of this? And here's the thing. No matter how great you are at what you do, you could provide the most incredible modality, have incredible teams that make meaningful relationships. Cancellations are part of the game. It's just a fact. And I had no other way to, like, I looked at this slide 20 times and I'm like, there's no other way to describe cancellations other than they just suck. There's nothing that ruins your day more than a cancellation. I mean, you could have full classes. You signed up 4 new members today, and then somebody walks in and says, I need to cancel my membership. And there's an immediate reaction to that, isn't there? There's just like this experience of like a gray cloud moves over your studio and the whole day is ruined. So here's my first invitation to you, because the intention of this next 45 minutes that we have together is really for you to have power around cancellations, for you to be able to predict cancellations, and for you to be able to prevent cancellations. Those are the 3 Ps. So let's start with getting some power around cancellations, okay? What I would say first is to get out of the emotional reactionary aspect of cancellations is to get what's so. And when I say what's so, meaning the actual data behind your attrition, or if you want to call it retention. I have met with owners and operators where they're like, oh my gosh, my attrition is horrible. And then when we actually look at the data, it's actually really, really good. It's just they're so impacted by people saying, I want to cancel. And as a rule of thumb, okay, this is kind of looking broadly at all the studios I work with and talking with other owners outside of that. If you're below 6% on a monthly basis, you're doing good. If you're in that 6, is that Laura, are you kind of seeing the same thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
6 to 8%, you're doing okay. Okay. You're not doing bad. You're not doing great. There's some room for improvement. And if you're above 8%, well, then you want to take a hard look at what's going on in your studio. And, the numbers are going to vary depending on your modality, might be a little bit different. And the way that, you can measure this using your system, like there's automatic reports. I take a second look. I take what was my beginning member number, how many cancellations did I have? And I divide the cancellations by the beginning number, and that gives me a percentage, right? It tells me what's going on.
And just
So,
for context, in Walla, the plan gain loss report is going to be really, really helpful for this, because we give you the net gain or loss and the overall retention number in all of those plans. So just Walla focused, that's where you're going to find the quickest data.
yes. So for you Walla clients, that's, write that down. That's something that you can go and do today. Now, even if you're a studio, let's say you have 5%, right? And that's fantastic. You're still eventually going to run into a challenge. And here's the challenge. I call it like a success challenge. Is the more you're successful and the more your studio grows, the harder it gets to grow. So if you have 100 members and you're losing 5 a month, it's not a huge deal, because you can easily sign up more than 5 people a month and have net growth. But when you have 300 members, that's a different story, because now your first 15 joins every month are just to break even. So it gets harder and harder to reach that net plus. And we know that our goal is every month we want to have at least 1 or 2 net growth. If you're a newer studio, that might be a much bigger number. So what I invite you to do as a kind of a first step is start taking a hard look at why people are canceling. And here's why I say take a hard look. In working with owners and operators, I hear certain phrases that I invite you to look at as red flags. If you find yourself saying things like most people, all of my cancellations, I wrote down some other ones. I just can't think of what they are. At the everyone. Oh, everyone's canceling for relocation. whenever you use generalities like that, inherently it's a lie. And not a lie like I'm cheating on my taxes lie, a lie like it's just not based in reality. Because the truth is, not everyone, not most, are canceling for relocation. If you have 20 cancellations, there are a certain number that are canceling for relocation. And then there's a certain number that are canceling for low usage. And there's a certain number that fall into other categories. And if you go into this generalization of, oh, well, everybody's canceling for relocation or most, you lose sight of the opportunities to actually impact your number. So this would be the first thing I would say is start to really keep track of this. I know I have clients that, well, I know in Walla, you can keep track of the reasons people cancel. I have clients who in their cancellation process, they send like a Google form saying, can we ask you a couple of questions? We'd love to learn more about why you're leaving. And they ask why they're canceling, right? And then they keep that so you can look month over month over month and really get a good sense of what's happening, okay? Okay, so here's how, once we get kind of what so, I invite you to look at cancellations from a really simple view, okay? And in those of my clients who work with me, I like to keep things super simple, is that when people say yes to your studio, when they're joining, whether it's on a package, whether it's on a membership, we're entering into a relationship. And like with every great relationship, right? Anybody here who's been in a long-term relationship, we know that if we stop tending to the relationship, if we stop generating romance and putting forth an effort, the relationship dies. And I have a suspicion, and I invite you to look for yourself in your studio. Don't take my word for it. I think we're really good in the early dating stages.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Those first few dates, we show our best self, right? We pay a lot of attention to people. We have meaningful conversations. We're interested in them. And then I think what happens is over time, we kind of start to neglect the membership a little bit. And then what happens is the number one question that I get from owners and operators, here's what it is. What should I say to save them? They come to cancel and I don't know what to say. It's the most common question. Well, here's the challenge. That's like, after somebody breaks up with you, you start in hindsight going, wow, why didn't I do things differently?
Right.
By the time they show up at your doorstep to say I'm canceling or I'm breaking up with you, it's, most people don't wake up in the morning when they're married to someone and say, I think today I'm going to get divorced. What happens is months prior to that, something happened.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe they cleaned the floor and their partner came in with dirty shoes. And they said to themselves like, oh, they just don't respect me. I work so hard to make sure the floor is clean. And then they bring in their dirty shoes. And as I'm sharing this, I want you to relate it to the studio. Okay. And then, they don't do anything about it, but it plants a seed. And then what happens is like a month later, they leave the toothpaste cap off the toothpaste and it oozes onto the counter. And they're like, now they leave their dirty shoes on. Now they leave the toothpaste off, the cap off the toothpaste. Clearly they don't respect the relationship. And these things start to pile up and they gather evidence until it gets to a point where they say, that's it. I gotta exit the relationship. So if you wait until your clients come in, you've only got like a 5% shot, maybe 10% at saving them. So what we're going to do today to actually help you with this is we're going to look at this from two aspects. And here's the two aspects. How do we proactively prevent cancellations before they happen? And we'll also take a stab at what do we do when they show up? What can give us a good shot? Okay. So if we go back to kind of the relationship analogy, I know most people, there's always a few, but most people, they don't get married thinking, I do. And in the back of their head, they say, and I can always get divorced if it doesn't work out. On that same token, when people join your studio, whether it's on a membership or whether it's on a package, most are not thinking about canceling the day they join. There's always a few exceptions, right? There is. And one of the things that can influence that is how you sell the membership. Like if you sell and you find yourself talking half the time about how easy it is to cancel and how non-committal, you're setting yourself up. You're planting the seed in their head.
Yeah.
But let's assume that we're not doing that. Let's assume that we're doing a great job. We're building value in our community, in our modality. And when that person says yes, they're excited. They're like, this is it. I'm going to be my best version of myself. I'm going to be a part of this amazing community. And then what happens is along the way, something happens and they start to disengage from the community. Now, why do you think we don't catch that? Well, there's a good reason. So I typically will ask this question of owners and operators. I'll say, what do your clients think of your studio? And of course, if you were to answer this question right now, like if I was talking to you, you'd say, my members absolutely love my studio.
Mhm.
The problem is we're talking to the wrong people. We're talking to the people that come in every day. So
Right.
of course they see the value. Of course they love your studio. And that's what they're going to tell you. And let me rephrase. They're not the wrong people. They're just a select group of people. But the people that are not coming consistently, the people that are on an unlimited membership and they show up 3 times a month, or they're on a package and they come in once every other week, we're not talking to them. So we actually don't know what's going on with them. And at a certain point with that group of people, what happens is it starts to become a value calculation. And when I say value, it's not just about dollars, it's about experience. It is about dollars and usage. But, let's say, for example, and the number is going to be different in each studio. And there's actually a place you can go. Like what I recommend doing is start looking for patterns. If you look at all of your cancellations of the last 6 months, you'll see certain patterns. You'll see, wow, 90% of them came less than X times per month.
Mm.
And they were on an unlimited membership. Or if they were on an 8-time membership, they came less than X times a month. And, I know for myself, so like besides belonging to like a big gym, I belong to a studio, a yoga studio. I'm paying for an unlimited membership. And when I go, the amount of times that I planned on, which is twice a week, I'm not thinking about what I'm spending. I'm thinking about how much I love my classes, how much I
Mhm.
love the instructor, how much I love the community. When I look at certain months where my schedule gets crazy or I'm traveling and I don't go, I immediately start to think about, I'm spending like $24 a class and I'm not that connected and da 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 da. And I start having that conversation. That's like the dirty floor conversation. That's kind of when it starts to shift and they disconnect from belonging to our community. So, with that insight, what would you want to start to look for? Here's what I say you should start to look for. And again, your number might be a little bit different. It might not be less than 9 times. It might be less than 8 times. Might be less than 10 times. You have to kind of figure it out for yourself. But every month, at the beginning of the month, who are my unlimited members who are coming in less than X times? Who are my 8-time members who are coming less than 8 times or less than 6 times or whatever that number is? How engaged are they with other aspects of the studios? Do they show up to our social mixers? Are they reading our emails? Are they interacting with our social media posts? And maybe are they commenting positive comments?
Mhm.
Or are they commenting negative comments? Whose classes are they coming to? If their favorite instructor is only on the schedule once a week, I got to figure out a way to plug them into someone else they'll love. How quickly, if they're not on a membership, how quickly are they going through their visit package? If they have a 5-pack or a 10-pack, are they coming in once a month? You can guess that if they are, they're probably not integrated into your community. So these are all signs that if you take a hard look at the beginning of every single month, you can start to identify who are my risky people or my danger members. Okay. All right. So now we've got some measures in place, and we can start to, in our studio of 2, 3, 4, 500 members, we can start to see here's potentially people that are risky, that may not be integrated. So what do we do about that? Right? This is why y'all came, is how do I save them? So if you think about why do people join your studio in the first place, there's kind of 3 pillars. One is they have goals, right? There's something they want to achieve, and they saw your modality, whatever it is, as the right fit for what they want to achieve. And it's not necessarily a physical goal. Their goal might have been to belong, right? And they loved your community. But typically they do have some kind of fitness, wellness, health goal. And what we do was the right fit. 2 is there was something about the community, right? The community was warm. It was inviting. They felt like they connected with it. And the studio world is very much about connecting to the community. We know that. And then the last piece is they had a killer experience, whether it was the right play track, whether it was the right lighting, whether it was the interaction with the instructor or the front desk, the experience was amazing. And what happens is when they stop being integrated, they forget these things. So we want to start to reconnect them and remind them about it. So I'll share with you like a quick little story. I was running a personal training business. This was years and years and years ago. And we were killing it. We had people coming, writing like $10,000 checks to train, and it was great. And then the economic crash of 2008, I think, happened. And our members, they weren't, starving. It's just their portfolios were going from 10 million to 7 million, right? And they started, they started looking at their finances and saying things like, I'm in great shape. I'm spending $1,000 a month. What if I just take my trainer out for beers and, once a month, and it'll cost me $100? And what they said was, I'm traveling. Take me off the schedule and I'll call you back when I'm back. Well, at first we were like, well, they travel. But then all of a sudden we noticed like 6 people a day just happened to be traveling. And what we realized is they weren't connected. So we put a measure in place where about every 8 weeks, we sat down, we started talking about what they'd accomplished, what their goals were and what they were working on now, and what the recommendation moving forward was. We started putting more social mixers into the mix, like creating more than just a place where people came to work out. We elevated our in-studio experience. When we did all of this, our attrition literally went away. Like completely. Like there were months we didn't lose a single client. So I would say once you identify these people, start to have conversations starting with goals. Like call up Laura and say, hey, Laura, I realized I hadn't talked to you in a little bit. And I know when you first joined, you were talking about marathon season. And I know marathon season is right around the corner. How's your training going for that? And can I make some recommendations on some classes that could really support that, right? To try and get the re-engagement there. You could also at that point, if Laura says like, wow, it sounds amazing, Eric, but life is just so crazy right now. I just don't have the time. I'm traveling, proactively saying, you know what, Laura, I got it. We want to help and make it comfortable. You're paying for unlimited use. Let's downgrade you. right? Let's bring you down to 2 visits a week or 8 times a month. I don't, and then when life gets a little easier, we can always revisit that. When you take that proactive approach, while in the initial you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose revenue, you will gain a member for life instead of having somebody who's thinking they're spending too much for your services. So then the other piece of this, besides the goals, is to focus on community and experience, create more than a place to work out. You know, you can create theme classes, member socials, and you can do it for virtually no cost. You know, we used to partner with, like, if there was a new wine bar in the area, we'd say, what is your slowest night of the week? And, you know, if we were to bring you 25 people, would you be willing to give them a free cocktail and put some snacks out, knowing that you now have 25 new clients? And they were like, sure, it costs us nothing. And then we'd call it a member mixer and we'd get people in, and they absolutely love it because they're then integrated with the community.
Yep.
Okay, so this is more on the prevention side. Laura, is there anything you want to add on, like, identifying or, you know, proactively?
Yeah, so I think right now the biggest challenge for a lot of studios is, okay, great, yeah, that sounds amazing, and I wish we all had time to be hunting all of this information. I'll get into details on some of the upcoming things, but just quickly, your audiences in Walla are a fantastic way to highlight these folks. And you can do all of this now. The groups that he mentioned in, like, the, people using their 8-pack only 6 times or fewer in the last 30 days, or unlimited members under X amount of times, people who haven't been in a certain number of days. That's really the point of audiences in Walla, is to make sure that those people don't fly under the radar and you have no idea, and they step in your door and cancel, and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I forget about Eric? He used to come all the time. But it's true what you said early on. We just think about the people we see all the time. And I often find that it's people are so grateful when you do reach out, when you do send a personal note like, hey, it's been a while. Not a generic automation, we miss you, but an actual, what's going on? Like, how was that marathon training? How did the marathon go? Did the yoga class help, or did your strength training here put you in a better position? So anyway, please, please, please leverage audiences. And if you've never built audiences in Walla before, in our sales and marketing course, you'll be able to find really key audiences that we see as kind of indicators of this type of thing. And we'll give you step by step on how to build them.
Yeah, Laura, that's such gold. You know, the generic "we miss you." I think at this point, people have enough experience that when they see that, they immediately think it's like a reminder. Oh, I'm not coming and paying you.
Exactly.
Right? They know it's automatic. It's a triggered thing,
Yeah.
but actually reaching out to somebody and saying, like, I know you just had a little one. How are you feeling? How's adjusting to life?
Yeah.
Right? Stuff like that is invaluable. That's really the magic that you cannot put a price tag on. Okay. So hopefully by doing all of this, we've now prevented some people from showing up on our doorstep saying, I need to break up with you. But even if you do all of this, there's still going to be some people. So how do we address those? What do we say? Well, what I'll share is it's not so much what you say as much as your approach. Because I would guess that if I walked into any of your studios and said, I want to cancel, you have all the right answers, right? Your team knows exactly what to do. Try and put them on a freeze. See if you can downgrade them. See if you can, make sure you tell them about the 30-day cancellation notice and get them, back into the studio, right? These are all kind of our standard approaches that universally are kind of the same. How well does that work out for you? Probably not very, especially we'll just put them on a free. Why don't we just freeze so you can think about it? Then you have somebody on your books who you're not getting revenue from, and then they come off a freeze and they say, now I want to cancel. And you say, well, you still have to give me a 30-day notice. and the whole thing goes sideways. Okay. Here's how I invite you to approach this is if Laura comes in and says, hey, I need to cancel my membership, instead of going into automatic response, start by being empathetic. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. What's going on, Laura?
Yeah.
Right. And really coming from a genuine place of being curious what's going on in their life. Right. Because we know there's always a solution for whatever is going on for them, unless they're relocating. Okay. If Laura's moving out of the city and moving to a whole nother state, there's nothing I can do to keep her. Okay. But for everything else, being curious and being empathetic from a place of really caring is going to open up the door. Now, here's something that's a little tricky, okay, that I'm gonna share with you, and this is kind of like in the human nature. So we, like all of you on this webinar, Laura, myself, we're all humans. We have human brains that are built for survival. And what that means is that everything kind of occurs on a threat level. It's a flight or fight mechanism that's meant to keep us safe. And when something happens that doesn't line up with the way we expect it to go, that kicks in and immediately we're on the defensive. So if Laura comes in intending to cancel and I give her some obstacle, well, why don't we do this instead? It immediately triggers a defense mechanism. Science shows, and I do a lot of work, like I worked with this brain scientist where they put like a swim cap with sensors so you can see what happens in the brain, is if you agree with people, if you validate them, what happens is the defense mechanism goes down. So if I say to Laura, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. What's going on, Laura? And she says, life is just too crazy for me right now. My immediate instinct is to say, well, why don't we downgrade you or why don't we freeze you until life, calms down? That's just going to cause an argument. Mm-hmm. Instead, I want to validate what she said in her experience by saying, oh my gosh, yeah, it sounds like life is so crazy right now. I really get it. And we don't want to add to your craziness. We're here to support you and help give you some relief. Now, I know some of you are like, well, when do I ask them about staying and stop the cancellation, right? It's not about that. It's about creating an opening and creating that I'm here to help. And when I validate using the words yes and, yes or agreement, what it does is it brings down the warning, right? They feel heard, they feel validated. And then when I use the word and, it creates enough of an ambiguity that Laura leans in to hear what is the rest of what that is behind that and. So that's where you want to start with everybody is, I'm so sorry, what's going on? And then, oh, wow, yeah, I mean, I get it. You're spending too much for only coming 3 times a month. I would be upset too. I hate when that happens. Now there's an opening to ask some questions. Now we can offer questions that lead to solutions. Like, Laura, with your new travel schedule and being so stressed and life so crazy, do you think if you came in just a little bit, like once a week or twice a week, that it would help reduce your stress? Okay, I got an idea. Why don't we do this? Instead of just disconnecting completely, it sounds like you're here on the weekends. Why don't we bring you down to a once a week membership so that you can come in on the weekends and relieve that stress? And then when life gets a little bit easier, we can always, re-upgrade you to have more access. Would that be more comfortable? So using that yes and approach to bring the defense down. Okay. This is something that takes a lot of practice and you have to work with your teams instead of just going into the automatic response. Now, even if we proactively identify people, there are going to be ones who show up. And even if we do a great job with the people who show up, there's going to be some we just can't save. So what do we do with those people? I recommend leaving on the best of terms, meaning there's ways that we can depart where they feel really appreciated. And I'll give you one that really is a winner. Okay. And I was working with a company like right at the end of 2020. I don't like to use the word pandemic. It was like end of 2020. And we still had people canceling. Da, da, da. And what we started doing is we started saying, we do have a 30-day cancellation. Of course, they'd be like, oh, I don't want 30 days. And say, but I tell you what, whether you use that 30 days or not, we're going to give you a gift certificate for 30 days in the gym. And it's good for up to a year from now. And you can, if you're moving away, give it to somebody one of your friends who's here, but hang on to it if you live locally, because you might decide you want to come back. And we're here when you're ready to come back. We actually got quite a few people who within 6 months would come back and use that 1 month, and they'd end up rejoining like 100% of the time.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it's really great. Because I know for most studios, it's like that 30-day out. People are so like upset about that, right? What do you mean? You didn't tell me when I signed up it had to be 30 days, which we did, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, let's get the most out of the 30 days. So that's an approach I would take as well, is you're going to be here. What are you going to be doing next? Oh, you're going to go and, do yoga lattes. Fantastic. Why don't we take the next 30 days and get the most out of this so that you really start off consistent with your new practice? Let me help you book some classes over the next 30 days. Right. And then if they're still pushing back, it's give the gift certificates so they can come back. The most important thing is it's not you. It was us. We failed somehow. And I'll share another quick little story. I had a client who they came in. She said, I joined a year ago. I was all excited. And, I had every intention of coming, taking the classes, losing weight, maybe doing some training. I haven't been in since. I need to cancel. So I said, I'm so sorry. I said, we let you down because when you came in, I know we made a promise that we would help you reach your goals. And the fact that you slipped through the cracks, that's on us. So, we asked for a 30-day. Let's make the most out of it. Would it be okay if I put you with a trainer on me so you could at least take that 30 days and really like get your best step forward? Right. She's like, I ended up gaining weight. I wasn't happy. And she had no plan moving forward. And she goes, well, if I use that trainer, then you want me to spend more money on training. And I said, yeah, absolutely. If it's going to work, if it's going to help you get what you want. And, she took it. She ended up buying training, but she ended up happy because she got what she wanted out of it. So, with all this in mind, where do you go from here? Like, where do you start? Because I know that this can be a little bit overwhelming. And the hardest part is like, where do I start? I have limited resources and time and attention. So here's what I would recommend. One, start looking at data for danger signs. And I know there is a lot of great data in Walla that you can easily access. And I would set like, here's the few danger signs I'm looking for. Right? Don't look at everything because you'll get lost. Pick 3 or 4 points. This next one, I'm a little on the fence about, which is don't poke the bear. Okay. If you have somebody, and this is like, everyone's going to have a different view on this, and I'm totally open to your feedback on it. If someone has not checked in and it's been more than 2 months, if you start saying like, hey, we noticed you haven't been here in 2-3 months, it's kind of a reminder they've been paying you for 2 or 3 months and not coming at all. So I will say most studios, they leave that population alone. And really the solution is don't let people get to that point.
Yeah.
Let them go 60 and 90 days without checking in at all. That's the worst. Have conversations about goals and about community by creating ways to make us more than a place to work out. Create events, fun events, do challenges. You'd be blown away how much people love putting a sticker on their personalized bingo board. It is crazy. They go nuts for it. You'll have 100 bingo boards and people are like, I need my sticker. Use charity, have your members rally and come in, work out for charity. And if they do leave, make sure that you make it on great terms. Don't make it argumentative. It's just not worth it. You have somebody who just like, they give you such a hard time. They're going to leave a negative review. Always have them leave on good terms and invite them to come back. And most importantly, if you have some insights from this conversation, don't let them sit as insights. Actually take a second right now and write down the action you're going to take, because the biggest disconnect that I see in studios is like, I'll have a session with them and they go, oh, this is a great idea. This is great. And they jot it down. And then when I meet with them a week later, I say, so how did that go? They're like, oh, I didn't implement it.
Okay, that's such a good point. I think, I don't know, I was just going to say, we can, for those of you that want to hang on, I can literally show you at the end of this how to build one or two of these audiences if anybody wants to stick on. So I'll do that when Eric wraps up.
Yeah, that would be great. And I'm wrapping up, Laura, so you can start sharing them. What I'm going to do is, because I know Laura, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to put my contact information on the screen, if that's okay, Laura.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, take a screenshot of it with your phone, or, write it down. This is my email and my phone number. For those of you that I work with, that the beginning of our relationship started with, how can I help you? So I will answer anybody's call. I will answer anybody's email, and I will always make time to have a how can I help you conversation. And whether you decide to work with me, or I can recommend you somewhere else, as long as you get what you need, that is the most important thing for me, right? Because that's why I got into this business. I wanted you as an owner or operator to thrive, because this is a business of the heart. And to see people who love this and love people fail just doesn't work. It's like a no pass for me. All right, awesome. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Yes, awesome. Well, the first thing I want to show you guys just quickly, and part of the reason we put this together is because as I've been thinking about, as we as a company have been thinking about how to make this easier on you, we realize there is a tremendous amount we can do with AI right now. And we have a very exciting, I'll give you guys kind of a teaser view of what we're going to be launching in the first half of this year. We essentially know that digging for all of these people and trying to figure out who to talk to when is quite impossible, especially for those of you who are owner operators. Maybe you're doing it by yourself, or you have one or two front desk staff people or a manager helping. So let me share just a quick little peek into the attrition or kind of churn risk or prediction that we're looking at. So what we're working on right now, and we'll be rolling out very soon, is being able to score your clients as a risk and essentially see, if I click on Sarah, why she is a risk. So we can look at her last booking, things like what her average cost per visit is right now, how far she lives from the studio, or her visit trends and member usage. So we've got a really clear view of why something's going south in the relationship. Maybe her favorite instructor left the studio, or she's been, not opening emails lately. Lastly, we can look at review sentiment. So if she's leaving reviews that used to be 5 stars and now they're starting to be 4 or 3, we can understand the sentiment is declining or improving. So these are all going to be things that we're trying to arm you with. So it's not going in and really, hunting on a day-to-day basis. It's going to be floating to the top on an aggregate basis. Here are the people that you absolutely have to talk to. Now, again, like I said, you can do this in audiences right now, and I'll jump in and show you guys. It's really easy to do in audiences right now, but not aggregated. So we'll get there. Let me share my screen so I can take you into audiences. All right. So for those of you who are on the marketing suite, you have unlimited marketing and sales suite. You have unlimited audiences. You can build as many as you'd like. And you now have collections. So these are basically groupings of audiences that have something in common. So you can see here, I've got milestones or ClassPass prospects. And then I've built one that's called churn risk members. So when I click in here, And actually, those of you who aren't on the marketing suite can still build 3 audiences at any given time with 2 conditions in each. So a lot of these you can still build, and you can always just do it once a month and then replace with another audience. But the marketing and sales suite will give you ability to get more granular. But you can see here I have 8-pack low use. So for those of you that have maybe an 8 times a month membership, I can see here's what's happening. I can click on each one of them, text them, email them right from this collection. But let's add an audience. Actually, let's go into audiences and build one from scratch so you guys can see. This one probably would be helpful for all of you. Let's say unlimited low use. Any of you who are franchises, you can select here whether it's going to be like which franchisee, if it's going to be all, and then you can decide if it's going to be to associated contacts. So anybody who has ever interacted with that business or just home contacts only. So here I'll say monthly unlimited members with fewer than, let's say, 8 visits last 30 days. Or you could say, 16 visits last 60 days, however you'd like to do it. So I will start by adding a condition, and I'm going to say class plan status. So this is going to give you an option here at the top to let you decide which one you're talking about. So in this case, I'm going to go to my monthly unlimited membership, and I'll say that they have current active status. So I don't want people who are paused. I don't want people who have canceled recently. I want active monthly unlimited membership. And I'm going to add a condition here that says their class check-in activity was less than or equal to 8 check-ins. And I'm going to say relative to today within the last 30 days. And I don't care what class, doesn't matter to me, but maybe you do have a specific teacher or class name or something you want to look for here. You can get much more granular, and then I'll save that. So now I can view the contacts in that audience. I can add that audience to a collection. But this class check-in activity condition is going to be really important in any of the audiences you build for, specific use decline over time. So this is one that anybody can build. I'm trying to make it so everybody, core or marketing suite, can do this. Okay, so there's one. And sorry, frog in my throat. If you want to do this for an 8 times a month or 4 times a month, and you want to see people who have fewer than 6 visits or 5 visits, you do the same thing. You just select the 8 times a month membership at the top, and then less than or equal to 5 visits or 4 visits. And it will show you the same thing. So I'll stop sharing now and pop back in and see. Good, Hallie. Glad this is exciting. Let me do the question. Do the risk levels show up on the class roster so our desk staff and teachers can take action during class? Hannah, that's a good question. As of right now, we do not have it there. It's going to be really in this kind of AI center of churn risk that we're designing out. But great call out. We're still in kind of the final stages of building this. So maybe I'll, Natalie, reach out to you and do a little investigating on what else you'd like to see there. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. It was hard to see on the split screen. Okay. I should have shared my screen with a different view. Let me just give you guys a quick view of that audience on a bigger view so you can see here.
There we go.
Class plan status, and then class check-in activity. Hopefully that's a little bigger for you so you can see the difference. So less than or equal to 8. And then when I was adding those conditions, it's the class plan status and class check-in activity were the 2 there. Yeah, and you can do another one that's really good to do is that same thing, class plan status and check-in activity with exactly 0 visits in a certain amount of time, because it's, catching those people quickly is better than waiting till that 45 or 60 days, like Eric was saying. You've really lost the ability to win them back at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. I know we're at time. Hopefully that was helpful so you guys can take at least one specific step with those audiences to catch those people, assign it to a staff member, make that part of a daily or a weekly checklist. And this is, prevention is fantastic. Then the click to cancel rules are not going to be a big deal for you. Most of the people canceling are canceling for a legitimate reason. So
Yeah. Yeah. And even when because there was a question on there, Laura, and I know we're at time about the 30-day notice. And, what I recommend is, check with your legal in your state. My understanding is as long as we tell them up front in their agreement that they sign, if we tell them there's a 30-day, we have to make it easy, like Walla is doing with the click to cancel, but we can still ask that they honor the 30-day, is my understanding.
yeah.
Okay, in reading
I
the rule.
think the Danielle who we had do our last webinar essentially framed it as it's not legal if it goes beyond the term of the contract. So if the contract was a year, if the contract was 6 months or whatever, requiring it outside of that, I believe. But again, I'm with you, Eric. Neither one of us are attorneys, and we are not here giving legal advice, but we want to make sure that you have resources for that. So you can pop into our previous webinar and click to cancel, reach out to Danielle. She is fantastic. But anyway, that's where we are.
And I'm really looking forward to your predictive being able to score your members. I mean, that's really, to be able to real time identify those people easily. That's the name of the game. That's the win.
Yeah, we're excited. It's the fun of getting to be innovative as a tech company right now in the world of AI. So Amanda, I'll just quickly, Amanda's asking if there's a way for members to see other members who sign up for the same class on the app. Not right now. That is not something we're currently working on, but good idea. Please put in a feature request for that, especially with specific stories or use cases, because I think it's nice for our product team to hear. All right. Thank you, everyone. Eric, it is such a treat to have you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Pleasure.
I will see you guys next month on our Walla webinar series. We'll be releasing the details soon. And please reach out to Eric. He is a tremendous source of knowledge, help, and will definitely help move the needle on cancellations in your business.
You are very kind. Thank you, Laura. And thank you to everybody who attended and watched this. Just appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
Awesome. Have a great Thursday, everyone. Bye-bye.